Hello students, welcome to our live APS classes, and as all we know that this is our foundation course especially for the students from 9 to 12. And in our today's live lecture we will discuss chapter number 7, that is evolution from the biology part, and this chapter is for class 12, and these are the short notes for the term 1 examination that is to be held in November 2021. And in other words, we can say that this is our quick revision. So first of all, welcome to all the students who joined with us our live APS classes. And now let us start with our chapter number 7 for class 12, and the name of the chapter is evolution, and this is your quick revision. So let us start with our first topic regarding this chapter, that is the origin of life and evidence of evolution. How the life is originated and what are the various evidences for the evolution. So the first criteria for the origin of life and the evidences of the evolution is that the study of the history of the life forms on Earth is called as evolutionary biology. That is called as evolutionary biology. So the term evolutionary biology is the study of the history of the life forms on Earth is known as evolutionary biology. Next is, what do you mean by the term evolution? So evolution is a process that results in the heritable changes. So evolution is the process that results in the heritable changes in a population that spreads over many generations, leading to diversity of the organisms on the earth. So this is known as evolution. So evolution is a process that results in the heritable changes in populations spread over many generations, leading to diversity of organisms on the earth. Next is how the origin of life is formed. So origin of life is considered a unique event. Origin of life is considered as a unique event in the history of the universe. Next, what do you mean by the term universe? So universe is very old, almost 20 billion years ago. It is very old, almost 20 billion years ago. It contains huge galaxies. That means the universe is very old, almost 20 billion years ago, and it contains huge galaxies. Galaxies contain stars and clouds. That is stars and clouds. Especially these stars and clouds of the dust and the gas. The origin of universe is explained with the help of a Big Bang theory. That means the origin of the universe is explained on the basis of the Big Bang theory. And what the Big Bang theory says, the Big Bang theory states that a huge explosion occurred, the universe is expanded. When the Big Bang theory states that when the huge explosion occurred, at that time universe expanded, temperature came down, at that time temperature almost came down, hydrogen and helium were formed, and the special gases that were formed at that time are the hydrogen and the helium. These gases were formed at the time of the Big Bang theory. Well, later the galaxies were then formed. After the formation of the hydrogen and the helium, after that there is the formation of the galaxies. That means the galaxies were formed due to the condensation of gases under the gravitation. That means galaxies were formed under the condensation of gases under gravitation. That means Big Bang theory states that a huge explosion occurred, the universe expanded, the temperature came down, and hydrogen and helium were formed later. After that, the galaxies were formed due to the condensation of the gases and under gravitation. The Earth was supposed to have been formed about 4.5 billion years back. That means the Earth was supposed to be formed about 4.5 billion years back. 4.5 billion years back, especially in the solar system, of Milky Way galaxy. Solar system of Milky Way galaxy. So the Earth was supposed to have been formed near about 4.5 billion years back in the solar system of the Milky Way galaxy. Water vapor, methane, carbon dioxide and ammonia. Water vapor, methane, carbon dioxide and ammonia. These gases were released from the molten masses covered the surface. Ultraviolet rays from the sun broke up water molecules into the hydrogen and oxygen, and lighter hydrogen escaped. At that time, the lighter hydrogen escaped. That means the UV rays from the sun broke up water molecules, especially into hydrogen and oxygen. That means the UV rays from the sun broke up into the water molecules, and these water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen, and lighter hydrogen escaped. Oxygen combined with ammonia. When oxygen combined with ammonia and methane, after that they form water. That means when oxygen combined with ammonia and methane, at that time they form the water, carbon dioxide and others. Water, carbon dioxide and others. When oxygen combined with ammonia, methane, and it forms the water, carbon dioxide and others. Ozone layer formed. This is the ozone, and ozone layer is formed as it cooled. The water vapor fell as a rain to fill depressions and form the oceans. So ozone layer formed as it cooled. The water vapor fell as rain and to fill the depressions and form the oceans. Life appeared near about 500 million. Life appeared near about 500 million. That is about 4 billion years back. 4 billion years back. That means the life appeared 500 million. That means about 4.5, not 4.5, but 4 billion years back, years after the formation of the Earth. That means life appeared 500 million, about 4 billion years back, years after the formation of the Earth. After that, what are the various theories of the origin of life? That means for the origin of the life, there are different theories that are involved for the origin of the life. And these different theories of the origin of life was given by different thinkers and scientists. That means the origin of the life, and regarding the origin of the life, the different theories were given by the different thinkers as well as different scientists. So first is the theory of special creation. And what does this theory state? And the theory is the theory of special creation. What does this theory state? So the theory of the special creation states that God created life. By his divine act of creation. So this is the theory of the special creation. And the theory of the special creation states that God created life by his divine act of the creation. Next is theory of panspermia, Cosmoswick theory. And this theory was given by early Greek thinkers. The theory of panspermia as well as Cosmoswick theory was given by the early Greek thinkers. And they states that the spores of the panspermia came from the outer space and developed into the living forms. That means this theory states that the spores of, especially panspermia, this theory states that the spores of the panspermia came from the outer space That means these came from the outer space and dwelled into living forms. When they came from the outer space, after that they dwelled into the living forms. And this is the theory of the panspermia as well as Cosmoswick theory, and this theory was given by the different thinkers, and they states that the spores or the panspermia came from the outer space and dwelled into the living forms. Next is the theory of spontaneous generation. Theory of spontaneous generation. And this theory of spontaneous generation states that the life originated from the decaying. Life originated from the decaying and rooting matter. Life originated from the decaying and the rooting matter like straw, mud, etc. And this is the theory of the spontaneous generation. And according to this theory, life originated from the decaying and the rooting matter such as straw, mud, etc. Next is Louis Pasteur rejected the theory of spontaneous generation. That means after the this theory, that is the theory of the spontaneous generation, Louis Pasteur rejected this theory of spontaneous generation and demonstrated, after the rejection of this theory, that is the spontaneous generation, and demonstration that life came from the pre-existing life. And according to this theory, life came from the pre-existing life. In his experiments, he killed yeast cells, especially Louis Pasteur, when worked with their experiments, and in his experiments, he killed the yeast cell. He killed the yeast cells, and these yeast cells in the pre-sterilized flask. These yeast cells were killed in the pre-sterilized flask and another flask into the air. And another flask into the air. That means in his experiment, he killed the yeast cells in pre-sterilized flask and another flask into the air. The life did not evolve in the former. The life did not evolve in the former. Former में जो थी वो life evolved नहीं हुई, but new living organisms evolved in the second flask. That means in the first flask, the life did not evolve, but in the second case, the new living organisms evolved in the second flask. That means in the first flask, life did not evolve, but in the second case, new living organisms were evolved in the second flask. New living organisms were evolved in the second flask. Next is theory of chemical evolution or O'Brien-Haldane theory. That means the theory of the chemical evolution or O'Brien-Haldane theory. And this theory, that is the chemical evolution or the O'Brien-Haldane theory, it states that life originated from the pre-existing non-living organic molecules. That means life that is originated from the pre-existing non-living inorganic molecules, not organic molecules, but inorganic molecules. And that formation of life was preceded by chemical evolution. And that formation of life was preceded by the chemical evolution. So according to the theory of the chemical evolution or the O'Brien-Haldane theory, it states that the life originated from the pre-existing non-living inorganic molecules and the formation of life was preceded by the chemical evolution. The conditions on the earth that favored chemical evolution. The conditions on the earth that favored chemical evolution were very high temperature, volcanic forms, and reducing atmosphere that contained especially methane, NH3, water vapor, etc. Water vapor, etc. That means the conditions on the earth was favored by the chemical evolutions were very high temperature, volcanic forms, reducing atmosphere that contained NH3, CH4 and water vapor, etc. Next is Miller's experiment provided experimental evidences for the chemical evolution. So this is the Miller's experiment that provided the experimental evidences for the chemical evolution. So the experiment was carried out by S.L. Miller. So especially this experiment was carried out by S.L. Miller and H.C. Urey. especially in 1953. That means this Miller's experiment was carried out by S.L. Miller and X.C. Urey in 1953. He took a closed flask. And that closed flask contained CH4, H2, NH3 and water vapor at near about 800 degrees Celsius and created electric discharge. And these conditions were similar to those in the primitive atmosphere. After a week, formation of amino acids were observed. एक हफ्ता बीत जाने के बाद there is the formation of amino acids that were absorbed. Complex molecules such as sugar, nitrogen bases, pigments, fats were seen in the flask by other scientists. That means after a week, formation of amino acids were absorbed. Complex molecules like sugar, nitrogen bases, pigments and fats were seen in the flask by other scientists. Analysis of the meteorites were revealed the presence of similar compounds. That means the analysis of the meteorites also revealed the presence of similar compounds. Chemical evolution of life was more or less accepted. That means chemical evolution of life was more or less accepted. So this is the representation of the Miller-Urey experiment. That means this is the Miller-Urey experiment, and according to Miller-Urey experiment, this is the vacuum pump, and this vacuum pump is connected with the boiling water. This is the boiling water, and this boiling water is directly connected with a liquid water tap. That means in this trap there is the liquid water, and this liquid water contains water containing organic compounds. Here this is the water containing organic compounds, and these are the water droplets. And here this is the water in, and here the water is out, and this is the condenser. And in this flask, that is, there is the spark discharge. This is the spark discharge, and there are number of different gases that are methane, NH4, H2O and H2. These are number of gases that occurred in this flask, and these are especially two types of the electrodes. So this is the diagrammatic representation of Miller-Urey experiment. Next is origin of first cell. How the first cell originated. First non-cellular life forms originated 3 million years ago. That means first non-cellular life forms originated 3 million years ago. Second is these molecules were like RNA, protein. These molecules were like RNA, protein and polysaccharide. That means first non-cellular life forms originated 3 million years ago, and these molecules were like RNA, protein, polysaccharides, etc. Cellular life forms first evolved about 2000 million years ago. That means cellular life forms first evolved about 2000 million years ago. These were single-celled, formed in aquatic environment, and these cells were single-celled and they formed in the aquatic environment. These were specially formed in the aquatic environment. This form of abiogenesis. Abiogenesis means that the first form of the life arose slowly through evolutionary. Abiogenesis means the first form of life arose slowly through evolutionary forces from the non-living molecules, and it is accepted by many scientists. Next is evolution. Evidence of evolution come from. What are the various evidences of the evolutions that come from? So first is the paleontology, Second evidence of the evolution, that is comparative anatomy and morphology, comparative anatomy and morphology. Third one is biochemical and physiology. Fourth one is the biogeography. Fifth one is the embryology. Paleontology. What do you mean by the term paleontology? So paleontology is the study of the fossils. That means paleontology is the study of fossils. The fossils are the remains of the past organisms, and fossils, these are specially the remains of the past organisms. So paleontology is the study of the fossils, and the fossils are the remains of the past organisms that specially preserved in the sedimentary rocks. These preserved in the sedimentary rocks. The rocks form sediments, and a cross section of earth crust indicates the arrangement of the sediments one over the other during the life history of the earth or long history of the earth. So rocks were sediments, and cross section of the earth crust indicates the arrangement of sediments and over the earth during the long history of earth. Different aged rocks, sediments, different aged rocks, sediments contain fossils of different life forms who died during the formation of the particular sediment. Some organisms appear similar to modern organisms. That means some organisms that appear at that time, they were totally similar to the modern organisms. They represent extinct organisms like dinosaurs. That means dinosaurs are totally nowadays extinct. So some organisms appear similar to modern organisms, and they represent extinct organisms like the dinosaurs. A study of fossils in different sedimentary layers, they indicate the geological period in which they existed. So the study showed that life forms varied over time, and certain life forms are restricted to certain geological time scale. Hence, new life forms have evolved at different times in the history of the earth. That means the study showed the life forms varied over time, and certain life forms are restricted to certain geological time scale. Hence, new forms of life have evolved at different times in the history of the earth. Next is comparative anatomy and morphological evidence. Comparative anatomy and morphological evidences show the similarities and the differences among the organisms of today and those that existed years ago. That means that difference or that similarities occur among the organisms of today and those that existed years ago. The evidence came from the comparative study. Those evidences that come from the comparative study and comparative study of external and internal structure. First is the organs with same structure design. Those organisms which have the same structure design. That means those organisms which have the same structure design and origin, but different functions, they are called as homologous organs. That means the homologous organs are those organs which have the same structure design and origin, but different functions, they are called as homologous organs. Examples are forelimbs of some animals like whales, bats, and cheetah have similar anatomical structure. They have similar anatomical structure, such as humerus, radius, ulna, such as humerus, radius, ulna, carpals, metacarpals, and phalanges. So these are the homologous organs. Homology. What do you mean by the term homology? So homology in organ indicates common ancestry. Homology in organs indicates common ancestry. So other examples of the homology are vertebrate hearts or brains. These are the other examples of the homology. And these examples are vertebrate, heart of the or the braids. In plants also thorns and tendrils. In plants also thorns and tendrils of Bougainvillea and Cucurbita. They represents homology. Homology is based on the divergent evolution. Homology based on the divergent evolution. And the same structure developed along different directions. The same structure developed along different directions. And these different directions due to adaptation to different needs. Adaptation to different needs. Then the conditions, they are called as the divergent evolution. The conditions is called as the divergent evolution. So these are the homologous organs in animals, and these homologous organs are especially of four limbs. This is the man, and these are the four limbs of man. This is cheetah, and these are the four limbs of cheetah. This is whale, and these are the four limbs of whale. And this is the bat, and these are the four limbs of bat. So these are the homologous organs in animals, four limbs. Next is organs which are anatomically different but functionally similar. That means the organs which are anatomically different, those organisms which are anatomically different but functionally similar. These are called as analogous organs. That means analogous organs are those organs which are anatomically different but functionally similar. They are called as analogous organs. For example, wings of butterfly and birds. Wings of butterfly and birds. That means the wings of the butterfly and the birds. Analogy refers to situation exactly opposite to homology. That means in analogous organs or in analogy, it refers to the situation, and that situation is exactly opposite to the homology. That means analogy refers to the situation, that situation is exactly opposite to the homology. Analogous organs as a result of convergent evolution. Analogous organs as a result of the or are the result of the convergent evolution. That means analogous organs are totally the result of the convergent evolution. And it is the evolution in which different structures evolve for the same function, and have hence similarity. Other examples of the analogy are eyes of octopus. These are the other examples of the analogy, and these examples are eye of the octopus, eye of the mammals, flippers of penguins and dolphins. These are the other examples of the analogy. In plants, sweet potato, that is root modification, and potato, that is stem modification. All these are the examples of the analogy. So these are the analogous organs. First, these are the wings of the insects. A is the wings of the insect. Wings of insects. These are the wings of pterodactyl. These are the wings of the pterodactyl. These are the wings of the birds. Wings of the birds. These are the wings of the bat. These are the wings of bat, these are the wings of the bird, and these are the wings of the pterodactyl, and these are the wings of the insect. So these are the analogous organs. Next is vestigial organs. What do you mean by the term vestigial organs? Like homologous organs provided evidences for the organic evolution. So what do you mean by the term vestigial organs? And vestigial organs like homologous organs that provide the evidences for the organic evolution. That means these degenerate, these are non-functional and rudimentary organs to the processor, while correspond to fully developed and functional organs related organisms. That means vestigial organs, these are degenerate, non-functional and rudimentary organs to the possessor, while correspond to fully developed and functional organs of the related organisms. There are about 90 vestigial organs. 90 vestigial organs. 90 vestigial organs, especially in the human body. That means there are total 90 vestigial organs in the human body. 90 vestigial organs in the human body. Some of them are tailbone, that is known as coccyx, and wisdom teeth, nictitating membrane, and vermiform appendix. Vermiform appendix. So these are, there are about 90 vestigial organs in the human body. Some of them are tailbone, that is coccyx, wisdom teeth, nictitating membrane, and vermiform appendix, etc. Some examples from other animals are hip girdles. These are other examples, and these examples are hip girdle and bones of the hind limbs in some whales, and certain snakes and wings of flightless birds. Next is biochemical evidences. So in biochemical evidences, the metabolic processes in organisms, they are similar with same new materials and end products. For example, energy released by oxidation and is stored in the ATP. That means the energy released by oxidation and it is stored in ATP and products. ATP and products. For example, energy released by oxidation. For example, energy released by oxidation. Energy is released by oxidation and it is stored in ATP. It is stored in ATP. So that means the metabolic processes in organisms are similar with new materials and end products. For example, energy released by oxidation and it is stored in ATP, which then powers the energy requiring process. Molecular homology is the similarity among the animals. Molecular homology is the similarity among the animals at the molecular level. For example, human DNA differs only 1.8% of the base pairs from chimpanzee DNA, and there is no difference between the two in the amino acid sequence for the protein, cytochrome, etc. Biogeographical evidences. Biogeographical evidences. The species restricted to the region develop unique features, and also species present in far separated region show similarity of the ancestry. This can be explained with the help of following processes. First is adaptive radiation is an evolutionary process. Adaptive radiation is an evolutionary process in which ancestral stock give rise to the new species that is adapted to new habitat and new ways of the life. So adaptive radiation is an evolutionary process in which ancestral stock give rise to new species adapted to have new habitats and new ways of life. Examples are Darwin's finches. These were small black birds which Darwin absorbed in Galapagos Island. He absorbed many varieties of the finches in the same island. All varieties of the finches had evolved from the original seed-eating finches. There was alternation in breaks. इसमें क्या है कि alternation in breaks है. There is alternation in breaks. And enabling some to become insectivorous and some vegetation. That means there was alteration in breaks, enabling some to become insectivorous and some vegetarian. Marsupials of Australia. A number of marsupials different from each other evolved from an ancestral stock, all within the Australian island content. Parallel evolution refers to the independent development. Parallel evolution refers to the independent development of similar characters in two animal groups of common ancestry, living in similar habitats of different continents. Examples are, first example is marsupials, mammals in Australia. Marsupials, mammals in Australia show parallel evolution as they have evolved from the placental mammals. All these closely resembles to look similar in corresponding marsupials. For examples are mentioned in the table. So this is the parallel evolution of Australian marsupials and placental mammals. Australian marsupials, first is the marsupial mole, placental mammal is mole, numbat, that is banded anteater, that is anteater, marsupial mouse, that is placental mammal is mouse, spotted cuscus, that is placental mammal is lemur, flying flanger, that is sugar glider, and the placental mammal is flying squirrel. Australian marsupials is Tasmanian tiger cat, and the placental mammal is bobcat, Tasmanian wolf, and the placental mammal is wolf. Next is convergent evolution. What do you mean by the term convergent evolution? So convergent evolution is the development, it is the development of the similar adaptive functional structures in unrelated groups of organisms. Examples are wings of insect, bird and bat. B. Spiny anteater. Spiny anteater and scaly anteater. Spiny anteater and scaly anteater belong to different orders of class Mammalia. Spiny anteater and scaly anteater belong to different orders of the class Mammalia. They have acquired similar adaptations. They have acquired similar adaptations, and these similar adaptations for food. Example, leg ants, termites, and insects. So spiny anteater. So here with a convergent evolution, it is the development of the similar adaptive functional structures in unrelated groups of the organisms, and the special examples of the convergent evolutions are wings of the birds, insects and bats, etc. Whereas spiny anteater and scaly anteater, they belong to the different orders of the class Mammalia, and they have acquired similar adaptations for food. Example, leg ants, termites as well as insects. Next is embryological evidences. So here beta, this is your quick revision for your term 1 exam, and these are the short notes for your term 1 examination. Embryological evidences, that is the study of the comparative embryology, and this comparative study of the embryology, it shows the common patterns of the development. That means in embryological evidences, it is the study of the comparative embryology, and this comparative embryology shows the common patterns of the development. The principles of the embryonic development were given by von Baer. Ernest Haeckel, this propounded the theory of the recapitulation. The theory is the recapitulation or biogenetic law, and it states that an individual organism in its development, and that development is known as ontogeny, tends to repeat the stages passed through by its ancestors. That means there are various different stages that are passed by the ancestors, especially that is known as phylogeny. That is ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. This means that life history of an animal reflects its evolutionary history. This means that the life history of an animal reflects the evolutionary history. For example, during the life history, frogs, tadpole larva resembles, especially with the fishes and the ancestors. For example, during the life history, frogs, tadpole larva, it totally resembles with the fishes and the ancestors of amphibia The presence of gill clefts, especially in all the vertebrate embryos and all the vertebrate embryos including human, it provides the strong evidence in support of the organic evolution. That means, especially there are the presence of the gill clefts in all the vertebrates embryos and includes especially the humans, and these humans provides a strong evidence especially in support of the organic evolution. Next is anthropogenic evidences. Excessive use of herbicides, pesticides, etc. And these resulted in the selection of the resistant varieties. In a lesser time scale. And this is also true for the microbes. Against which antibiotics or the drugs have been used. That means this is also true for the microbes and against which especially antibiotics as well as drugs have been used. So all these evidences tell us that evolution is a stochastic process. So all these evidences, they show that evolution is a stochastic process that based on the chance events, especially in the nature and chance mutation in the organisms. So here these are the anthropogenic evidences that in anthropogenic evidences, excess use of the herbicides, pesticides, etc. they has resulted in the selection of the resistant varieties in a lesser time scale, and this is also true for the microbes which antibiotics as well as drugs have been used. So all these evidences tell us that evolution is a stochastic process that based on the chance evidence or the chance events in the nature and chance mutation in the organisms. So here beta, this is all about the chapter that is evolution, and this is chapter number 7 for class 12th, and this is our short notes revision for the term 1 examination or the quick revision for the first term examination. So here we complete this chapter, that is evolution. So once again, good evening to all the students who join with us our live APS क्लासेस, और जो रेस्ट चैप्टर्स है बेटे आपके टर्म 1 एग्जाम के, उनको भी हम जो है वो आपके साथ डिस्कस करेंगे. तो इसके साथ जो है वो आप एपीएस लाइव क्लासेस के साथ जो वो जुड़े रहेंगे.